Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope everybody's doing well, inshallah. This is Saima Zulfikar, the CEO and co founder of Afiyah Counsel and Care. A very warm welcome to you all, brothers and sisters, and I really appreciate you taking your time in to join our webinar today. So, before we start off our event, just wanted to quickly introduce you to what ACC is and how we operate. So, Afia Counsel and Care, that stands for ACC, was formerly known as Aspiring Counselors Club. And Alhamdulillah, we offer mental health services to Muslims across the globe since 2015. Here you will find our counselors, our coaches dedicated to helping you with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other issues. And inshallah, when you decide to collaborate with us, you choose holistic healing through a blend of Islamic teachings and psychological tools. So, just in case you're wondering how to go about our website, you will see that we offer counseling services, we offer coaching services, and we also offer live chat support. So, if you ever need assistance or need someone to listen to you or talk to, feel free to click on this icon called Don't Think, Talk to Us, and we will be happy to support you. So, I now would like to introduce our speaker for today. That's Sister Alia Bashir. Alia Bashir is an integrated wellness coach at Afia Counsel and Care. She's currently based in Kenya. She's extremely passionate about helping people reach their goals, realize their purpose, and utilize their inner resources in order to live a life of Afia. She strives to work with a non judgmental and empathetic attitudes towards all her clients. With that, inshallah, we will kickstart our session. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you all to today's live session. It's about becoming a self-aware Muslim. I'll be your presenter, and my name is Ali Bashir, and I'm very excited to present this topic because I just feel it's very important that Muslims learn self-awareness. I will be discussing the importance of self-awareness as well as how to become self-aware. So please stay tuned and Jazakallah khair for attending. I hope you all benefit inshallah. So let's get started. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربي زدني علما. بسم الله. Okay, so what is self-awareness, first of all? Self-awareness, as its name suggests, is being aware of your own self, being aware of your own thoughts, feelings, behaviors, experiences, attitudes, and perceptions. Basically, it's being aware of your inner self. It's being aware of your psychological processes and what goes through your mind, how you feel, your emotions, how you behave, even your childhood experiences, your past experiences, your memories, being aware of your attitudes towards things and your how you perceive the world. So there's a famous psychologist who's by the name of Carl Jung who said that he who looks outwards dreams, he who looks inside awakens. This is very interesting because we usually learn about the world through observing and coming up with conclusions from like observing the world and learning from others and drawing conclusions from that. Well, and it's almost like because we cannot control the outside world, you know, we can't control what everybody does. We can't control situations in the natural world. We can't really control that, and that's why it seems like, you know, we are dreaming. You know, it's like a dream because you can't control your dream, right? You can't control what you're going to dream about, or you can't pick your dreams, right? But when what we forget is that we can control what we can control is our own selves. What is in ourselves we can control, and when we focus on that, we become more, you know, like active in the process. So also, like when we look outwards and we look at the world, in order to learn, or to change something. We usually like follow others, or follow the norms, or follow the society, or follow what generally what everybody does, and that's like being a robot, or like being in a dream where you can't, like, it's almost like dreamlike because just following what is going on. But when you look inside, you really like wake up, and you're able to then control your, because of being in control of yourself, you can then control what is outside. So it's very interesting. In fact, in Islam, there is a very tremendous stress on being self-aware, because um, Islam is all about the soul. Islam is about you yourself as a soul, because what matters is your own soul. You will be worried about your own self and your own deeds. It'll just be you and yourself. So really, like, this whole world and whoever is in it, like, and whatever is going on in it, in the end of the day, it's not about anything, but it's about what you. It's a collection of people until they change what is in themselves. So, like, we Muslims are always about, you know looking at others and what other Muslims are doing, or what the non-Muslims are doing. We're always judging others actions. We're trying to correct others actions, but but what we are forgetting is that we don't even think about our own actions. We don't think about our own intentions. We don't think about our own shortcomings. And we can't change that because we don't even know what they are. So we don't even have self-awareness. So how are we going to change what is in ourselves? So that's why the importance of being a self-aware Muslim. Yeah, and let's come back to the benefits of self-awareness. I feel that, I think, the first step in any kind of personal development, if you want to develop yourself, or if you want to grow as a person, the first step you can take is to become is towards self-awareness. If you'll be self-aware, you'll be able to tackle a lot of things psychologically in yourself. You'll be more emotionally strong, you'll become mentally strong, you'll be more socially attuned as well, and you'll be more like, um you'll be able to grow as a person, as I said. So you become more self-assured. What does that mean, like self-assured? Have you ever met someone who just you just get impressed by that person just by the way they carry themselves? Like, they seem so confident, and they seem so self-assured that, you just feel like they know what they're doing, and they know what they're talking about. And nobody in this world can even harm them, because they have this presence of themselves. I'm sure so many of you must have met people like this in your life, that you just get attracted to because of the way they carry themselves. It's not about how intelligent they are or anything like that. It's just about the way they think about themselves. You just feel like being around such people. So you become more self-assured, you know who you are, and then you become more in touch with yourself. You know who your real self is. So you can actually be your own therapist, because you can have a conversation with yourself, you can talk to yourself, you know who your true self is. And nobody can just come and harm your ego, because you know who you are. It also leads to personal growth, because when you know yourself, you'll be able to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and what your shortcomings are, what you need to work on. So whatever needs working on, you will work on that, and whatever strengths you have, you will build on that. So in the end of the day, you'll be growing as a person, and then you'll be able to pinpoint your influence in a situation. A lot of times, things happen in our lives. There's different interactions we have with people around us and everything. And a lot of times when something goes wrong, like in a situation where, like, maybe you lost your temper, or an argument went out of hand, very many of us, and a lot of times, we just say, oh yeah, it's just because she's so temperamental and she couldn't control her anger, she started to say this, and that's why I got mad. And we always have justifications by looking at what others did. And that doesn't help, because it it just again puts the control into the outward, instead of taking control of what you have inside of you, which you really have control over. We don't have control over others' actions, right? So you're able to, like, when you're self-aware, you're able to know, even if there's an argument, for example, after that, you'll be able to know, oh, I think this whole thing blew out of proportion because I said this. And I said this, so it led to the other person to feel very judged. And that's why maybe they reacted like that. So you're able to understand your own actions and then in the end work on that and then have better conversations next time, you see. So you're able to, like, any situation comes your way, you're able to pinpoint what you did in that situation yourself, how you influenced that situation. You learn to evaluate your actions and have a conversation with yourself. As I said earlier, you're constantly evaluating your own actions, and you can talk to yourself, like, like everybody wants someone to talk to, but when you can talk to yourself and respond back in a more productive way, it leads to better outcomes in terms of more productive behavior. And also, you're not quick to judge others because, again, you have removed the focus from others, and now the focus is on yourself. So you're just thinking about your own actions, and you're not bothered about judging others because you're judging your own self, and that's very helpful, as we said. So I'll just teach you all a small self-awareness exercise. Okay, I'm not like, it's just a few questions you can ask yourself. You can do this anytime, and maybe you can note down these questions. You don't have to necessarily do it right now. It might take a lot of time, and you have to think about it. But I'm just giving you an example of how self-awareness works in terms of questioning yourself. So, the first question I can ask is, how do you describe yourself? You know, how do you describe yourself as a person? Do you describe yourself more negatively or more positively? Like, you can say, oh, I am a very extroverted person. I like to go out. I'm a very social person. I'm a very withdrawn person. I like to keep to myself. Okay, whatever you describe yourself with, as, and then you ask yourself, where has this belief come from? That's a very deep question to ask, because a lot of you might be able to describe yourself, but then maybe to really know where this belief has come from is requires more introspection, looking within yourself and really analyzing yourself. So where has this belief come from? Has it come from your past experiences? Has it come from an incident that happened? Has it come from the way you were brought up? Has it come from how people treated you or your experience in school or something? Really be able to pinpoint that, will lead to greater self-awareness. Okay. Do you ever tell yourself, another thing you can tell yourself, I mean, whenever for example, you can tell yourself, when you cannot, like, you tell yourself, I cannot do this. I can't achieve this, when there's a task ahead of you and you just immediately jump to the conclusion, I can never do this. I can't do this. I can't achieve this because I'm not qualified. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable or whatever, you know, and being judgmental about yourself, coming up with a certain judgment. If you tell yourself that, and then again, what belief is it that stops you from achieving? These are the questions that lead to greater self-awareness, like to really ask yourself where your beliefs are coming from, to really know um, yourself truly from your childhood, from your early adulthood, from being attuned to your past experiences will lead to greater self-awareness. So this was just an example of a small self-awareness exercise. Okay, and now here we are on how can we increase our self-awareness. Okay, so the first thing, I'll elaborate on all of these points further in the next few slides, inshallah, but for now, it's like I've just listed them here. So we can increase our self-awareness by knowing our Creator, because He's the one who created us, Allah is the one who knows us better than we know ourselves, and He's our Creator. So if you know yourself, if you know your Creator, you'll know yourself better, because how better to know yourself than through the Creator who created you in the first place, right? And then feedback, what others tell you, and self-disclosure, how you disclosing about yourself to others, your own experiences through self-reflection and self-assessment and personal therapy. That's how we increase self-awareness. So the first point was knowing your Creator, and this means connecting with Him, connecting with Allah. Um, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He knows the secret and what is more hidden. So He knows everything about you, like even if you're hiding it from others around you, If you're hiding it from yourself. Sometimes, we don't want to admit some things to ourselves about ourselves. There's some painful thing about you, or some embarrassing thing about you, or something you're ashamed about yourself. You don't want to admit it to yourself. You don't want to even face it or acknowledge it in yourself. Allah knows that one too. So so why don't we rely on him? Why don't we form a connection with him first, so that we can then go to the stuff that is more hidden through asking him. And Allah says also, be not like those who forgot Allah, so He made them forget themselves. This goes back to the point of how self-awareness increases when we know Allah, because we remember Allah. He created us. He deserves our remembrance. Because when we forget Him, Allah makes us forget ourselves. Allah makes us not be aware of ourselves, and we don't want that. So Allah, as we said, Allah knows you better than you know yourself. You can always talk to Allah. You can always talk to Him about your strengths and weaknesses. You can talk to Him about who you want to be and how you want to go there. And then it means being God conscious, being aware of Allah's presence. It keeps you in check. It's not like, you go on with life. Self-awareness is an awareness of yourself, and knowing that Allah is watching you is like, you'll be more conscious of your actions, right? Like, you know, there are examples of people in the Quran whom Allah says they're deaf, blind, and they can't see, and they're dumb. Why? Because they're not aware of what they're doing. They're just doing things out of their own whims and desires, and they don't want to be God conscious. They don't want to have taqwa of Allah and understand Allah, that Allah is watching them. And they don't want to do things as the way the Creator has told them. So that in the end, they're just blind to themselves. They're dumb and they're deaf, right? So always being aware of His presence will help you increase your self-awareness. And also, as Islam teaches us, in very, very importantly, to be aware of your own intentions. As the Prophet ﷺ said, actions are judged by intentions. So self-awareness relates a lot to intentions, because when you're self-aware, you know why you're doing what you're doing. You're aware, okay, you're doing something. Why are you doing it? How will you do it? Who are you doing it for? These are all intentions, and they are a great part of being self-aware. When you're doing something, you're aware of why you're doing it. And all right, so the next thing is feedback. What other people tell you, even if it's in passing. For example, you have to be very, very attuned to what other people say about you. Sometimes, we don't like to take feedback, and we're not accepting of feedback. We take it, we become so defensive that we kind of overlook some very important information that someone is telling us about ourselves. For example, like, even if it's in just passing, like someone just says that, you're so careless, and why, like something like that, you're so careless, and you don't really care much. And because that person says that about us, instead of taking that information and understanding what that means about ourselves, we kind of jump to the other person and think judge them instead. We say, okay, she's just being so, how can she say that about me? She's being so selfish, and she's being so judgmental. So it's very, very important to increase your self-awareness, that you should be aware of what people say about you. In fact, you should be asking for feedback about from others about you. Like, your loved ones around you, they know you better. They will be genuine, obviously. So you can go up to them and say, how did you think I to my talked to you that time? Did you feel offended when I said this? Constantly checking on them, if what they thought about you in that situation, or there was or when you had a conversation with them, what they thought about you. It's going to be very useful for you. So when people give you feedback, you need to check if there is truth in it. If not, move on. But if yes, work on it. Yes, if there's truth in it. If there's no truth in it, move on. Because, sometimes people just say things, just to offend you, or just to make you upset, or just to trigger you. And being self-aware will also lead you to analyze the feedback properly. But if you're not self-aware, you might take the feedback and then, dwell on it and get stuck over there. But that's how, self-awareness builds on self-awareness. So try and be more aware of yourself, like really really gauge if you're that, and if you're not that, just move on from it. But if you are what they said, you need to work on it, because that's what we said, self-awareness needs to leads to personal growth. So do work on it. Check if people are projecting on you. So sometimes when people give you feedback, it's not like you have that, it's like they are projecting what they have on you. For example, someone tells you that, oh, um, I don't think, um, I don't think like, you have such a messy room, and I think you're a very messy person, and that's not true about you. So you have to really consider if they're projecting on you what they are. So maybe they are a very messy person, but they don't want to accept that, so they project it on you, and that's a psychological defense mechanism. So you need to be aware of that too. Sometimes people, instead of accepting their own shortcomings, they will throw it onto others, or like someone who is like constantly arguing will tell you, you never listen to me, you never listen to me, and they're the ones who don't listen. So just be aware of that. And also on the flip side, you need to be aware that you might be doing that same thing too. Maybe you're projecting others. So how you can use that information, for example, what you don't like in others, imagine something you really don't like, a characteristic in someone. Just think about that, and then see if you have it too. Maybe that characteristic is in you, and maybe you are projecting that onto someone. So it's very useful to know these things. Okay, it all depends on the meaning you attach to the feedback. You can choose how to feel about it. Exactly. So it's not about what people tell you. It's about how you choose to feel about it. It's all up to you. Someone can say really hurtful things, but it's how you take it in the end of the day. What kind of meaning are you attaching it? Are you telling yourself, I'll work on what she said? Or are you telling yourself, this person is just so, um, you just they just want to judge me, and they just want to correct me when I'm wrong, and you're not gaining anything from doing that. So it's better to take what what is useful from the feedback. If the negative feedback is true, take it as an opportunity for growth. You can always grow like that, and that's what self-awareness has to do to you. When you cannot work on something, work around it. Maybe there's something that someone told you, and you don't really have a solution for it, but you can try and work around it. Meaning that, for example, there's a problem, yeah, and there's three ways to deal with a problem. You can either solve the problem by, facing the problem and dealing with it, or you can avoid the problem by just not even acknowledging that it's there and just avoiding it completely, or you can come to terms with the problem. Where there's a problem, there's no really solution for it, but you kind of accept the problem and take what's best from it, and work on what you can about it, and then come to terms with it that, yeah, this problem exists. Maybe I have a lack of communication skills, but it's not like I'll learn how to communicate immediately, but I'll just work on it slowly by slowly, working around it. So, and the other one is self-disclosure. Disclose more about yourself to others. Self-disclosure is very important in gaining heightened self-awareness, because when we talk to others about ourselves and we tell others more about ourselves, it leads to us organizing our thoughts better, organizing our feelings better, organizing our perceptions in a more, we become more aware of our own perceptions. For example, when you tell someone, like for example, you will realize this yourself when you're talking to someone, about yourself, you'll end up saying a lot of things that you never thought of in the beginning about yourself. Notice this, like sometimes especially when someone is a good listener, you'll end up telling them something that if you hadn't talked about it, you would not even mention those points to yourself. Like, it just helps you to organize your thoughts about yourself and become more aware. Oh, it's this. This is what I was thinking, because one statement leads to another statement, and then you uncover like a subconscious within yourself. That there's a part of us in this there's a part of us which is in the subconscious. So when we talk to others about it, about ourselves, and if you're able to if that person really loves us and listens to us, we'll be able to say something we are not even aware of. So that leads to more self-awareness. And of course, self-disclosure should be done in a in a reasonable way, where you don't just self-disclose to anyone and everybody. Like, you have to obviously self-disclose appropriately to people you trust. Okay, then there's our own experiences can lead to us becoming more self-aware. You see, like, we are human beings, and we are surrounded by experiences. We have experiences every single moment. So it's not the experiences which are important, okay? It is the interpretation of the experience. It is the way we feel about the experience. It's not about, oh, I this happened. A lot of times we just talk superficially about something that happened, like when we're relating it to a friend or something. We say, yeah, I know this happened and that happened, but we don't really say what we feel about it. We're not even aware of the emotions that go through us when that experience happened. So that's more important. If you want to increase your self-awareness, be attuned to your emotions at a time of an experience, or even after the experience. Ask yourself, what did you feel? What behavior did it bring, positive or negative? What were your feelings, thoughts, and behaviors after that? This is a very important question to ask yourself after any experience, any kind of negative or positive experience. Ask yourself, what feelings, what did I feel at that point? What was going through my mind? What did I think? What did I do after that? What are my actions after that? So these are very important questions. So it's not the experiences, it's the interpretation of the experience that leads to self-awareness. Another way is to self-reflect and to self-assess and like self-evaluate. This is like self-reflection is like the previous exercise, self-awareness exercise I just presented to you a while ago. Uh, that's an example of self-reflection, constantly asking yourself, like, what kind of belief do I have about this? And where has this belief come from? Why do I think like this? It helps you to grow. For example, be aware of your feelings, first of all. Another example of how you can self reflect. Be aware of your feelings. For example, whenever you're feeling awkward, don't just feel it and let it go. And then, another time the experience happens again, you feel awkward and you don't get your feelings and you just happen to be embarrassed and all that. So you feel awkward, don't just leave it there. Stop. Think and reflect on your thoughts. You feel something is wrong with you, ask yourself why. What is it? What's wrong? Why am I feeling awkward? What's going through my mind? Like really reflecting as you're feeling it, acknowledging, okay, naming the emotion that you're feeling, and then acknowledging it, accepting it, and then asking yourself, what's going through my mind? And why am I feeling this way? What is it? This is an example of self reflection. Personal therapy also helps in increasing self awareness. A counselor can help you become more aware through reflecting on your thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Sometimes, as I said, talking to others about yourself is very helpful because you not only organize your own perceptions, but you become more aware of them. So a counselor will help you to reflect on your. For example, there's a thought going through your mind. A counselor will help you to become aware of the thought, as well as if it's negative, to help you to deconstruct it and to replace it with more positive thinking, and to be aware of kind of what the feelings that you went through and the behavior that you exhibit. Sometimes we don't even know what we are doing. So therapy really helps, you know. Okay, so again, as I will say it again, self-awareness is a very important skill, and like any other skill, it has to be practiced, it has to be learned. It takes effort, so you'll have to put a lot of effort to become self-aware. Those are all some ways you can try to become more self-aware on a constantly daily basis. It just doesn't come out of nowhere, or just one day wake up and you're self-aware. You have to constantly work on it. You keep a journal. You write down your thoughts, feelings when an experience happens. You evaluate your own actions. You think about your intentions. So it's a very important skill, because as I said, it's the first step towards personal development, just being aware of yourself. And self-awareness also helps us not to impose our own values and beliefs on others. So, for example, like, because you're self-aware, you'll know what you believe in. You'll know what your values are. You will not, a lot of times we want others to be the way we are. and we expect others to believe and have values the way we have those values and beliefs. So when you're aware of your own beliefs and values, you will not impose them on others because, you know, you understand that everybody has their own values and beliefs. And a lot of times, why we project onto others, why we expect from others, is because we're not aware of what we ourselves believe in. So we expect that everybody has to have a generalized belief, like, because we don't understand the specifics of our own beliefs. So self-awareness helps us not to impose our beliefs on others. In any situation, self awareness helps to know our influence in it. It's not about them, it is about you. At the end of the day, it's what you do in a situation. You can't control what others do. What you can control is yourself. So be aware of yourself. Be aware of what led to a situation, what led to a fight or an argument or a conflict. Be aware of that and be aware of what you did, what you thought, what was going through your mind and what you felt, that maybe you can work on next time. Self awareness helps us to realize how and when we manipulate or dominate others. There are times when we are like, dominating a conversation, we're just taking control of the conversation, or we want to be in the limelight. Being self-aware will help you to realize when you're doing this. You ask yourself, why am I doing this? What needs do I have in this conversation? Do I want to seem like I know everything? So we realize, and also when sometimes when we manipulate others, maybe we don't like others don't realize we're manipulating them, but we know deep down we are, but sometimes we don't acknowledge it. So self-awareness helps all these very complex mechanisms, psychological mechanisms, come into our awareness. Okay, self-awareness. These are other advantages of what it leads to. Self-awareness leads to becoming more open to change. We are self-aware, and so we can know what we have to change in ourselves. We know when you're self-aware, you can also gauge. You can also understand how your actions influence others. So by changing the way you behave, you can indirectly change others. You see, so like, for example, like you want your child to be more understanding of what you're doing. You're busy, so you want your child to understand. So when you're self-aware, you will understand that if you scream and shout, "Leave me alone, I'm busy," it'll lead the child to disturb you more because they will feel upset. So you try and change that action within yourself by being calm and giving them an idea of maybe an activity that they can do. So in doing that, in changing your own action, because you're aware of how your action would influence the child, you are able to bring about a more positive change, right? So you're open to change like that, and then you also awaken to your strength. You know what your strengths are. You build on your strengths, and you use your strengths to become a better Muslim. Use your skills and your talents and everything to become a better person. You become sensitive to others. Again, this is very important because so when we're aware of ourselves, we become more humble because we understand our own shortcomings. So when we're humble, we'll understand other people's too. That everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So we're more sensitive to others, and we become more empathetic also. And also, we're able to look for the best way to respond to situations. Not we just don't respond anyhow. We think before we respond, and we analyze our actions, our intentions, our needs. And sometimes how we can use others to fulfill our own needs. That is also a very dangerous thing that we do psychologically. So being aware of that, you know, will help you to look for the best way to respond. Questions that you can ask yourself, write down in a journal and constantly evaluate these things is, maybe we think we know ourselves, but trust me, when you ask yourself these questions, you will find that even with a pen and a paper, it's difficult to answer. We think that, oh, I know myself, I know what I want in life, I know where I'm going. So, generally we think that about ourselves. There's a psychological bias thinking, where we believe that we know more than we actually do. That's a psychological bias. So when you, that's what, like You don't really realize it when you until you sit down and think about it. So even like questions like who am I, what am I, where am I going, how will I get there, as much as they seem obvious, when you just take a pen and paper and try to write them down, you'll see how difficult it is for many of us. So who am I? What am I? Where am I going? How will I get there? Who am I? First of all, you're a human being. You know, Allah created you as a human being. You're a Muslim. Asking yourself, how important is my faith? You know, okay, how important is Islam to you? How much do you follow it? What makes me different from others? Okay, these are the questions that you can ask yourself to come to an understanding of who you really are. Okay, so these are just examples of questions. What makes me different from others? What's so different about you? What's so unique about you? What makes you stand out against others? You know, what is your psychological makeup? That means what is your personality like? What are your emotions generally? What is your attitude towards things? What is your how do you behave generally? What do people say about you? Psychological makeup is consists of your thoughts, behavior, and your emotions and your personality. And how do I view myself? How do you view yourself? You know, like do you perceive yourself as a more positive or in a more positive way or a more negative way? You know, and then what are your vulnerabilities? You know, what are some things you don't want to accept about yourself? There are some things that we're so shy to admit about ourselves, even to ourselves. We're all wounded in some way. What are my deepest fears? Asking yourself, what is my deepest fear? You know, what is that? What do I fear the most? Everybody has something that is like that weighs down on their chest. Everybody has that. Everybody is wounded in some way. What makes me angry? You know, constantly asking yourself very deep questions such as these. What am I? You know, what am I? Meaning, what are your values? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your fears? What are your needs? What are your emotional needs? What are your physical needs? What are your spiritual needs, financial, social needs? What is your potential? I mean, try and answer these questions. You will understand it's not as easy as you think. That means we don't know ourselves as much. You know, for example, what do you value in life? You know, what do you fear? Everybody has these. Everybody has values, fears. We just don't know it. And then where am I going? Ask yourself, what is your goal in life? You know, what are your goals? What are your different specific goals? What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? What are your plans? How do you plan to reach your goals? What are the choices that you want to make? What choices are available to you? What is your purpose in life? Who are you here for? Are you here for Allah? What is the purpose of you being a Muslim? What is the purpose of your life? It's a very interesting question, but we don't even think about it. And we're supposed to be thinking about it. You know, what is the purpose of this day which Allah gave to you today? What is the purpose of that? And then how will I get there? Asking yourself, how will I get there? What are the resources you have? What is available to you? What are your competencies, your skills, and your talents? What do you have to achieve what you want? Mm, You know, so these are very deep questions, and I recommend all of you try this activity and really have a personal journal where you slowly note down these things because they'll help you to increase self-awareness. This is an example of self-evaluation and self-assessment. Self-awareness is the first step to self-acceptance, obviously, because how will you accept yourself for who you are if you don't even know yourself? You see, a lot of people are having self-esteem issues, are having confidence issues, are having issues accepting something about themselves, even if it's about their physical body. Some people don't like the way they look, you know. These are all rooted in not being self-aware because when you're really self-aware, you realize that there's some strengths about you that you can focus on. And there are weaknesses which you can also work around. Remember, we talked about that. So self-awareness is the first step to self-acceptance. And then through self-acceptance, you can increase your self-esteem. You can be more confident. You can develop yourself personally and professionally. Also, being aware of yourself helps you to accept others the way they are. We judge others, and we judge others because of a very important thing. We judge others because we are insecure about our own selves. We judge others because we think that by judging them and by pointing out what's not good in them, we are covering up what's not good in us. By not acknowledging that to ourselves because we are too busy trying to see what's bad in others. So really, if you want to accept people the way they are, accept yourself. Self-awareness also helps to relate well with others. You're able to have good communication with others. You're able to understand other people's emotions and feelings. You're able to actualize your own goals and plans. Obviously, if you know your goals and plans, is when you'll actualize them. So, but if you're living in a state of complete obliviousness to yourself, you will not even know where you're going and how you'll get there. So, if you want to have a purpose in life, you want to be more in control of your life, self-awareness is the step to take. And also, it helps you not to become stuck on negativity because a lot of times we'll get criticism from others, we'll get insulting remarks, people will make us feel uh, uh, well, people will undermine us and everything. But sometimes when people say a lot of things about you, there a lot of times because of our own uh, because we're not accepting ourselves as a result of not having self-awareness, we become stuck on what they said. We become so upset and so um, devastated by just the words of someone. You just get stuck over there and you feel horrible, you feel miserable like someone said that about you. But if you're self-aware, instead of getting stuck over there, you will understand that person, what the feedback that they gave you, you'll analyze it. And if you know it's true, you will work on it. And if you know it's not true, you'll move on, like we discussed earlier. You'll be more self-assured. You see, no one will be able to degrade you or to put you down deliberately because you're so self assured. Self awareness also helps to improve ourselves constantly, as Allah says. Indeed, he succeeds who purifies his soul. Purifies his soul, meaning constantly improves himself and strives towards being better, being a better Muslim, pleasing Allah, you know, being a good parent, being a good child, constantly trying to work on your mistakes and your repenting from your sins and everything. So self awareness helps you with that as well because again it leads to being conscious of yourself through being conscious of Allah. Jazakallah khair for listening. It has been a very enlightening session, I think, because self-awareness is the first place to start if you want to develop yourself. So Jazakallah khair for attending, and I hope you have benefited. And it's just a small glimpse of what self-awareness is, and I hope that you guys benefited. And if there's any questions, inshallah, I'll be open to them, inshallah. So, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you all to today's live session. It's about becoming a self aware Muslim. now. Uh, the, the first question is the first question is can self-awareness lead to improved mental health? If yes, how? Okay. Yes, of course. As I said earlier, self-awareness is the first step to take for development. So yes, it does lead to improved mental health because what is mental health? Mental health uh, is your the state of your mind, is a healthy mind, meaning you have productive thoughts, you have more positive feelings, you can handle your emotions, you can control your behavior. So that's what mental health is, right? Being in a positive state of mind. So if you have self-awareness, you know your thoughts, you know your feelings, you know your behavior, you know your personality, you're able to then control it and be in control of yourself. As I'm sure a lot of you have heard, don't let your mind control you. You should control your mind. You should control your emotions. You should be in charge of yourself, and that's how you will be more productive in this world and achieve your goals. So yes, it does lead to improved mental health, and it's because of because of the great power of being aware of yourself. Leads to accepting yourself, leads to a healthier sense of self-esteem, leads to more self-confidence, leads to emotional control, leads to productive behavior, and a lot of other things. So yes, it is very important for mental health. The second question is, can increased self-awareness heighten ego, overconfidence, or arrogance? Very, very good question. It's a very good question. You see, yeah, self-awareness will actually not do that. You know, those people who are arrogant, those people who have a superiority complex, you know, those people who have like egoistic behaviors, those who are narcissists, these are all people who are like acting like they're the boss and knowing and like overconfident and all that. These people lack self-awareness. They lack the real self-awareness. You kind of if you know yourself well, you will understand you have weaknesses, you will understand your shortcomings, you will understand how sometimes you cannot how sometimes you can be a you can lead you can cause negative things to happen. You're a human being, so every human being has their downfalls, right? So if you're self-aware, in fact you'll be more humble because you're aware of your weaknesses and your things you have to work on. And in fact, you'll be aware that there's so much you still don't know. There's so much still you have to learn. There's so much that to work on, you know, that you need to work on. You have a state of urgency that, no, I know I'm lacking in this. Let me work on this. There's a characteristic that I don't like in myself. Let me fix that. So actually, it leads to the opposite. So remember that anytime you meet a narcissistic person, an arrogant person, a person who thinks too much of themselves, they're actually lacking in self-awareness. That is their problem. And then okay, let's go to the next question. How can we keep making a note of our self-awareness on a daily or weekly basis? Yeah, good. What is helpful in this case is keeping a journal. You know, I cannot stress enough the importance of having a journal. If you want to grow as a person, start by having a journal. I'm a person who doesn't like writing much, but alhamdulillah, I kind of like pushed myself, like, let me just keep one journal, even if I have to write like 2 seconds a day, it's fine. And I pushed myself, and trust me, I've grown because of just keeping a journal, keeping a record of my thoughts and feelings and how I can improve, what are my values, asking myself those different questions, answering them, thinking about them. Because when you sit with the pen and paper is when you will really, really introspect, I mean, look within yourself and think, and then write it down. And then as your journal, like as you spend time in your journal every day or every week, and then when you look back, you can see there's patterns in your behavior or patterns in your thoughts or patterns in your feelings, and then understand something about yourself. Even when, for example, as I said, one way to learn about yourself and become more self-aware is uh, getting feedback from others and noticing what people say about you, really noticing that. So when, for example, somebody says something even in passing, you know, no, like not what do you call notice that, and then next time you go to your journal, write it down, and then ask yourself, is this true? Has it happened before? Why did she say this about me? Is she just projecting, or does it have some truth in it, and all that? So yeah, keep a journal, even if it's weekly or it's daily. It's really gonna help. Okay, so the last question is, How do I teach self-awareness to my kids from a tender age? Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, for your kids, start by always acknowledging their emotions. Don't neglect how they're feeling. The way your kids are feeling is very important for you to help them build on their emotional strength. You know, a lot of times we tell our child when they're upset, we don't want to see them upset. Like, stop crying, or okay, just pull yourself together. You know, why are you crying? And even acknowledge that they're upset, or when they're angry, or when they're sad, or when they're like agitated. We don't like say, "Oh, I can see you're feeling angry. I can see that you're a bit sad. What's wrong?" Like, like really acknowledging their emotions. That's where you can start from. Try and be there for them during those more negative moods, and acknowledge their emotions, help them to become aware of that emotion that they're feeling. So, and then the thoughts, and constantly ask them questions about themselves, like, "What do you think of this? This happened today. What do you think of it? Like, this person did this. What do you think about that?" Like, just keep asking them questions and let them ask questions too, so they can learn more about themselves. Even when they do something, like they behave in a certain way, instead of just like judging that behavior, or telling them off, um, ask them about that behavior, like, "You just did this. Why did you do this? And why I just told you to pick up your toys. How come you've left it like this?" Asking them a lot of questions, pointing out the behavior that they do, pointing out their emotions, will really help them to gain that self-awareness from a tender age. So these are the questions that I have, and I hope I've answered all your questions. Jazakallah khair. I think it's the end of the session now. Jazakallah khair for attending. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.